Hello, hello, hello. It's Margot Mastery, your heartfelt CFO. I am super excited to be here with you today on this Monday. I hope you all are doing amazing. I got myself out on a quick walk before for like 20 minutes. Things were all over the place in business, and I wanted to just recenter myself on the day, on what I needed. And there's nothing like putting on your jacket and it's like a different version of like a cold plunge, right? People go into like these big ice baths and they do all of the things to get themselves in like the uncomfortable temperatures. And instead of just doing the thing, right? Um, and it actually is a really good entryway point to today's topic, which is the overwhelm detox for business finances. So even at times for myself, I go into the basics of what I need to run my businesses and to run my life. You know, if you think about it as a business owner, at times our own life is even like a business because we have to work around different things and we have to take care of things so that we can conduct business. We can work with our clients. We can be an employee. We can do all of the things. So the overwhelm detox for business finances, like what is exactly even does that mean? Today we're going to unpack the root issue behind nearly every financial struggle. Overwhelm, avoidance, freeze mode. I was actually doing an analysis on certain clients of ours of what was going on, and our friend ChatGPT was actually really, really helpful. So what I do is I tape our calls. I always re-listen to my client calls. And when I re-listen to the client calls, then I read the notes. I have a little bit of a lengthy process. And when I reread the calls and re-listen to the calls, it's what I take from it. It's not only when now I'm telling you I'm putting it in ChatGPT. And because there's things behind the ask and the concern that I see as a CFO and what I'm working to help our clients. So overwhelm, avoidance, and freeze mode. Lately, the most common one is freeze mode. Actually, there's a lot of avoidance too, which then brings overwhelm. So they're all of the things. How financial overwhelm actually forms. It builds up when financial tasks pile up without a clear rhythm. You're operating as both the expert and the business owner. Avoidance becomes the fastest way to reduce stress. Opening your numbers feels like I'm already behind. There's no obvious starting point, so nothing starts. You know, this morning I was doing a task, and um, so many things are developing in my company that I was like, where's this and where's that? And we have so much organization going on that, of course, the part that I was working on was not necessarily organized yet. So I got myself into overwhelm, kind of like, I can't do this, I can't do that. So let's say you're opening up your numbers and you feel like you're already behind. Let's say the avoidance becomes the fastest way to reduce it, right? So what do you do now? A real life example. A successful service-based CEO shared. I can run my business all day, but I freeze when it's time to open my finances. This wasn't a capacity issue. It was overload and avoidance and lack of structure. So lots of our clients, what happens is they just don't want to open up finances, or the famous sentence from taking from Peter to pay Paul is happening so that they can take care of things. So it feels like an overload of like, I should know this, I should know that, I should know this, and I should know that. But it really goes into when you're operating the business as the business owner and the expert. So not only you're an expert in running your business, but you're also looking to be an expert in marketing. You're looking to be an expert in accounting and taxes and all of the things. Common questions we get from business owners is, I avoid my finances for months. How do I stop this cycle? It all begins with the awareness. And once you are aware and you see it, you can catch it, name it, take a deep breath, whew, and say, okay, I see that I'm doing this. How do I reflect and change? Years ago, and this must be like 10 years ago, when I switched over to Heartfelt CFO and tax from Margot's bookkeeping, it was harder for me to look at my own numbers because I was spending boatloads of money. And why was I spending boatloads of money? Because I was winding down things on Margot's bookkeeping and I was upwinding things on Heartfelt CFO. So it was a lot of like out, 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 out. And there wasn't even a lot of time to bring things in because it was a lot of shifting. And when that happened and I wasn't looking at the numbers, I was kind of like aware. But what ended up happening when you come out of it, you're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So it's also just recognizing ourselves how we work around money. So right before this, I was actually talking to somebody and he was telling me how he did not realize out of his paycheck there was $500 a month coming. Was it $500 a month or 500 a check? It must have been a month coming out of his check to cover life insurance and health insurance, and his employer didn't tell him, but it was on his check. And he couldn't understand why certain things that he was paying off of his check was finished, but the money still seemed very tight. And he started to blame himself and all of these things. So it was like not taking that time of that awareness of when it happened to take a deep breath, like we automatically think something is wrong. So I avoid my finances for months. How do I stop? What should my weekly and monthly money routines actually look like? I also want to say here, should. When we should all over ourselves is the exact thing to actually backpedal and say, why do we think it needs to be a certain way? I was actually on a coaching call for myself last night from my mastermind, and she was actually reflecting on certain things, like where she kept shifting me. And what I did was, to keep up with it, I was just taking a deep breath. And I share this to say is that as leaders, we grow. And then even once you grow, there's always another layer, and layer. And that a lot of you hear about it, the word recalibrate. If we don't recalibrate to the shifts that are happening, the world outside of us is going to seem like it's like this reactive trigger pull when it's really not. Another question that I get is, my books are messy from mixing business and personal. How do I fix it? Stop. Just stop. Stop charging personal in the business and stop taking vice versa. Like, just stop. That's how. Stop. And chances are in that you're avoiding asking for the help around accounting and tax and bookkeeping that is still creating that, which is actually the fundamental that solves 125,000% of all the problems of accounting and tax is bookkeeping. Because from bookkeeping, you have good numbers, you can tax plan, you can do your tax return, you can pay your bills, and that's it. Like, it's just the formula. We just make it more complicated when we don't have bookkeeping. So now we're mixing business and personal because we're taking from one account to the other. What should I handle versus delegate so I'm not carrying everything? Start to delegate with what you are able to delegate. I was talking with a client on Friday and he was telling me, he was like, I know this, like, it should be done. He's like, but the control is like giving me palpitations right now. He's like, but I feel like it's going to help my health. And I'm like, palpitations or your health? And he's like, it all goes into, because the theme of my call with him was helping his well-being and quality of life. He's one of our investor clients, and he has a very big electrical business. And in this business, what ended up happening was he was focusing on a lot of long-term, and then cash flow got tight. It was only temporary. And when that was happening, when that is building, we start to take things on ourselves, and then we start to work on, okay, should this be shifted? Should that be shifted? And all of the things. And then when that happens, it's almost like a mindset shift. But then once you realize it, you name it, you tame it, and you go for it. How do you break the avoidance cycle? Start with a 30-minute flow. Check your cash balance, review incoming payments, scan the upcoming obligations, categorize 10 to 15 transactions, and tackle one small clean up task. Now, if all of this is too much, choose one thing. Don't just check the cash balance. I'm going to vote one small cleanup task. Categorize the transactions and then take it from there. But ideally, listen to Margot, right? And then just take the whole 30 minutes, because now we're taking on the whole thing around finances, and now you have a system. You know, we were looking at our intake forms of clients, and it was always, I don't have a financial system, Margot, I need a financial system. And here it is. I'm calling it breaking the avoidance cycle, but I'm going to rename this slide as like, this is your financial system. Signed, sealed, beautifully packed with Margot's smile and saying, here you go, without the discovery call with me, and start. Now, I would love to have you on a discovery call with me. That's why the Scan Me link is there, and please come on. But use this and let me know how it's going. How to reduce freeze mode. Make finances feel safer and less activating. Use checklists to reduce decision fatigue. Set a timer to keep tasks contained. Observe before fixing. Pair the task with something grounding. Replace judgment with curiosity. So when you find yourself judging on the should and it needs to be a certain way, flip the script and be curious of like, why does it have to be this way? Why do I think it needs to be? Why do I think it's something wrong? What would happen is if I just aligned with the situation as is, and I took task from there, and I took action from there. Pair the task with something grounding, like go for a walk, like this morning, even for me, like everything was chaotic. Like this was off, that was off, this one was off, this one was off. And I was like, okay, grabbing my jacket. I didn't have enough time to grab my dog, and I just put on my headphones. And then the walk was over before I knew it because my headphones died. So I went back inside. So I find out of all of this, setting a timer for tasks is really, really important. I'm going to tell you why. Sometimes we think that we get into tasks and then it has to go to completion. It doesn't have to go into completion. You got to get as much done as you can. Use checklists to reduce decision fatigue, and just do one thing at a time. You're not bad with money, you're overloaded, and the structure is what brings clarity back online. And honestly, what does this have anything to do with accounting and tax? When you have the system, let's go back. When you have this system, the checklist, using a timer, observing before fixing, and this, this financial routine, you have a way for bookkeeping. You have a way for taxes. You now have those crevices of those doors, which is the biggest thing of what comes on every phone call of people that they can't not get in, that they can't get in, and then they can't not get themselves to another place. And I'm giving it to you here as a present. So your overload on the structure is what brings clarity back online. So share with us. Use the chat to share. What part of your finances feel the heaviest right now? Is it just the idea that you have the finances? Is it just the idea that you're not bringing in enough money? Which of these questions hit closest to home? Where do you want clarity before the next quarter? So here we are today recording this, February 9th, quarter one of 2026. A lot of people are preoccupied with their health goals and those types of things. But are you preoccupied with your financial goals? Is paying bills like bugging you the dang out? Is closing the year and doing taxes? Now, what is it? The shift that changes everything. Overwhelm eases when you move from reaction to routine, avoidance to awareness, fear to structure. This is the foundation of calm, confident financial leadership. Routine, awareness, structure. Now, I can teach a lot of these things around taxes and what's tax deductible, but if we don't implement this of what we talked about today, you're not going to be able to get into the higher level tax stuff of what you can pay yourself, saving for taxes, getting the tax return done, and not showing up and like, can you just do it, Margot? Now, we can handle that, but it's not ideal. What you want to happen is that you're in full control of your numbers, because whatever you give us is basically what's going to go on the return. And you may not be happy with what you're doing. So scan this QR code, come on to a call with me, clear the chaos, protect your business, keep more of your money in your pocket because you're all working dang and hard. And I look forward to seeing you on the call. I cannot wait to talk to you more. Please make sure to scan the QR code and let's protect your business, put more money in your pocket, and stop thinking that the problem is somewhere else when it's usually these little leaks that we talked about in the process. So use that financial routine, because every call that comes on, they want financial organization. I gave it to you today, and let's work together to put more money in your pocket, protect your business, and make those goals seem even easier and easier. Talk soon. Please scan the QR code. And also, actually, those who need help around the tax return, I just want to share a little bit quickly around what we did for the tax return process. So a lot of you may not have bookkeeping yet. And if you're listening to this, put down no bookkeeping. And I want to share with you a link of a tool that we made so that I can help you with your numbers for the tax return. And if you need help with the tax return too, so that you can get into a process. We have a very specific system where I want to solve the crisis of not knowing your numbers so that you can not be overwhelmed, you can be aware around your return. I look forward to hearing from you. Feel free to come on a call or send a DM, and I will talk to you soon.